Hi, and welcome to Business Spotlight series. I'm Martin Bailey, and joining us today is Rachel Jones, founder and clinical lead at the Hormone Clinic and Psychiatry Company Limited. Welcome, Rachel. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
No, thank you it's our pleasure, but thank you very much for taking the time out to come and talk to me today. It's a real privilege. Thank you very much. So, look, why don't we start this whole thing off and you tell us a bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I am a medical doctor. So I went to medical school and I graduated as a doctor. And then I spent time working in various disciplines within the hospital. And then I decided, after a few years, to specialise in psychiatry. So all doctors choose to specialise in something. And I chose to specialise in psychiatry. And I worked in the NHS for many years. And I worked through the various levels of seniority, and I actually chose to specialise from there, psychiatry, in forensic psychiatry, which is actually looking after dangerous mentally ill people. So I did that for 6 years, and then because I had 4 children and I was travelling backwards and forwards to London, it just all became too much. And in 2013, I left the NHS and I became a visiting psychiatrist to the Priory Hospital in Chelmsford and also our local hospital, the BMI St Edmunds. And I was seeing outpatient after outpatient and after outpatient there in both of those hospitals. And it became very apparent to me as I did that, that men and women were not responding to their medication. Women were often presenting to psychiatric services for the first time after they'd had a baby. And I started to think there's something going on here that I'm missing. And I gradually dawned on me over time, with more and more experience and seeing more and more patients, that there was a hormonal contribution to this. And this is an area that's just not acknowledged by psychiatrists. And so during lockdown, actually, I thought I need to do something about this. I need to train in hormones. Where do I go? And so I did some research and found the only recognized CPD for doctors in training of hormone therapy. And I did that, and it was an online, they'd adapted it for COVID, and it was an online training, and I did that. And then I decided that what I was going to do, I was going to set up a service separate from what I was doing in my outpatient clinics, to focus specifically on hormone balance in patients with very significant mental health problems. And that's when the Hormone Clinic started. And and so within that, I've been focusing mainly on the Hormone Clinic, expanding that. And within there, I see patients with perimenopause, menopause, premenstrual dysphoric disorder, postnatal depression, and in men, testosterone deficiency and male menopause, which is another word for it, is andropause. And that's the area of my focus from a business perspective.
Wow. So, I mean, that's that. I mean, as we were talking about earlier, that's a big subject right now in the world, menopause and, male menopause, etc. But that's a big leap. I mean, from being, clinically focused to setting up your own business.
Yes.
It's been must have been quite a gigantic leap for you. So what's been your biggest learning in terms of that leap?
My biggest learning is that it's very difficult. I didn't have the skills in terms of developing a business. I'm a clinician first and foremost, having worked in the NHS for many years. So I was used to working within large institutions within the structure of that. And all of a sudden I was by myself and having to develop a business, and I had no clue how to do it. And my biggest learning, I think, I put my trust in a lot of people that in areas that I didn't understand. I didn't understand about marketing, for example. I didn't understand about website design, and I put my trust in people that they were going to help me. And so, for example, I think I've had 3 websites before I was happy with the one that I've had. I tied myself into various marketing companies that didn't produce the results that I needed. And I put my trust in many people. So I think I've now found people that I trust, because I've discovered that it's really important to have people around you that you trust. Well, have people around you for a start, because it's very lonely. You feel very alone. doing this. So having people around you that you trust implicitly has been so incredibly valuable.
Yeah, I mean, I unfortunately hear that quite a lot in you know the work that I do about people putting their trust into other companies and companies not necessarily delivering. So,
Yeah.
so I think the key message there is really do your research on
Yes, yeah, absolutely. But I don't think I really knew how to do it. That's the thing. Yeah.
and even get to speak to some of their customers to see if there's any live, you know, information you can get about the sort of results that they're producing. So
Yes.
that, I mean, that's good insight for people, absolutely. So in terms of the people that you now sort of surrounded yourself with, you know, how have you managed, you know, how have you developed them? How have you got, you know, how have you found those people?
Well, so I just through recommendations. So it got to the point. I mean, I think probably every business owner says this. There are days that I wake up and think I can't do this. It's just too much. I'm not I'm not moving. I'm not progressing.
That little voice in the shoulder, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah. And then there are other days when I wake up and I think, this is amazing. I'm loving what I'm doing, but I have reached out to people, and I'm not naturally, I don't naturally ask for things. I don't I'm sort of being the one that does everything myself, and it's being brave enough to step out and say to people, I need some help. I'm not moving forward, and I've been let down. Do you have anyone you can recommend? And the moment you ask the question, people seem just delighted to help you. That's what I've discovered. So it's about being brave enough to say, I'm really stuck here. I don't know what to do next. Do you have any advice? And then using other people's contacts.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think when you say brave, I think it's about accepting that not knowing is not feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, so not knowing, it's looking about not knowing something as an opportunity rather than a negative aspect.
Yeah.
And
Yes,
thinking in that
absolutely.
positive light, saying, well, this is a big opportunity for me because if I get to know this, then I get to learn this and my business will move forward. So again, I mean, another great insight is it's about opening yourself up and just accepting that you don't know what you don't know yet, I think is a phrase.
Yeah, I mean, if I look back to I think it was almost 3 years ago I saw my first patient. If I look back to what I've learned over that time, it's quite extraordinary. All that stuff that I didn't know, that I now do know, and I wonder how I even did it.
Yes, but you have. So there's a lot to be proud of there. A lot to be proud of. So look, I mean, obviously, you're still a practicing clinician and you're running a business. So time, work-life balance, all that stuff, I'd imagine is a bit of a spinning lots of plates all the time. How have you managed that? How is that working for you?
So that's been really difficult, and I have felt very guilty over the time for spending hours and hours and hours in my office working. So I've taught myself to be disciplined, and I was working at weekends, for example, and always slipping off to my office when I thought nobody was noticing, and I've stopped doing that. I've stopped working at weekends. I've stopped slipping off. I've stopped working late in the evenings when I think nobody's watching, and I'm much more disciplined. So I see my patients on certain days. I see my patients 3 full days a week, and then the other 2 I have to focus on the business and do all the admin that's required. And those 2 days to do the admin that's required can slip away from you. So I have to be very disciplined in terms of setting my time. I actually set my watch, and I say, right, I'm going to, for the next hour, I'm going to focus on this, and I'm not going to be distracted by emails. I'm not going to be distracted by phone calls. I'm not going to be distracted by anything. This is what I'm doing for the next hour. And I've had to teach myself that along the way.
And how did you come up with that sort of precise approach?
Well, learning it myself, and seeing the time flying by and looking up and thinking, I can't, all I seem to have done is sent a few emails and 3 hours has gone, but also advice from other people.
Did you read any books or did you take on any learning from there?
So I've joined a practice acceleration group. So it's actually a group, it's an online group for practice owners, medical practice owners,
Mm.
which has been invaluable, really, really just so helpful. And they have taught me that.
And rightly so. I mean, that's exactly good thing to teach you, because you're right. It's about, you know, the sloping, or you make it sound as if you've been a naughty schoolgirl, but it's just the sloping off to the office. You think it's unnoticed, but actually is noticed by your family more so than anybody else. Because, and I think the other thing that becomes a challenge is you think you're spending time with your family, but your brain, you're not actually present.
No, and my children,
your head's still in the business while you're there. Your body's there, but your head's not there.
I know my children say that to me. They say, "Mum, you're not listening to me." And when they want me to really listen to me, they say to me, "Mum, I'm going to say something important to you now." And I sort of come to and think, right,
So they've adapted.
They've adapted, yeah.
They've adapted and come up with their own little strategies to get you to come back into the room, which is interesting. So I mean, you know, that advice about, absolutely. You know, days that you're working in your business and days you're working on your business need to be clearly defined. And I think the advice you said about giving yourself time slots. So I've got an hour to get this done. Not 2 hours, not all day. You put deadlines on it. So therefore you put yourself under pressure to get the work done at the time you set, which is absolutely great advice. So
the other thing I do the night before I finish, so if I'm doing a clinic all day, the evening before, I will just make a jot down of 3 things that I must get done the next day. And that works as well.
You're right.
Because otherwise I won't do them.
All what I would be advising people to do is to plan the next day the night before. And there's a reason for that, because subconsciously your brain is working on